It's about time I reacted to more songs from Limbus Company. This time it's Compass, which I know is a popular request. My name is Corey, or Everything Fantasy. I'm a music composer for video games, and today we're going to be breaking this down as much as we can. If you have any non-spoilery context that you can give to help kind of put some context, that would be really helpful too. I have my keyboard in front of me. I'm gonna imagine, because it's Mili and Limbus Company, the two kind of like, if you add one and the other, it creates something distorted usually, quite dark sounding, quite intense, done with mixed messages in terms of the lyrics. So that's kind of what I'm expecting, but who knows, maybe this will defy my expectations. Let's get into it. So I can hear four things going on immediately. We have the distorted static sound that's happening kind of quite... It's kind of like, I almost look at this in terms of layers. Right at the front we have the distorted static sound. Just behind it we have a kind of like a synthy, almost organ-y pad sound. Behind that there is percussion. And when I say percussion, it's very minimalist, quite distorted again. I'm getting quite dark imagery from this. And at the back we have kind of the key sound that sounds something like this. Something like that, with a lot of reverb as well. I think the key is going to be F minor. Could be wrong though, Mili has a tendency to defy expectations and sometimes even change key, but let's keep listening. Okay, this is really intense. This is way more intense than I was expecting it to be. Okay, there's a lot of stuff going on. So I think the main thing that makes it feel really intense is the kind of the really fizzy sounding synth line. It goes like this. And then we have a guitar in the background. And I was expecting it to go up again, but it goes quite dark and goes to a C. Which is actually outside of the key of F, so it creates a little bit of contrast as well. It should be a C minor chord, but it's actually a C major. But in the context, it doesn't sound very happy. Like, we usually expect major chords to sound happy. In context, it doesn't. The contrast between the previous chord and this chord makes it feel even more dark and intense. We have the very typical vague E, but broad enough to kind of like be interesting to someone who hasn't played too much of the game. Lyrics, I'm reclaiming myself, for example. Let's see what else we have here. Full speed towards your heart. At last, your mermaid setting sail. Interesting. I'm getting quite a lot of feelings from this one. Of intensity, the idea of like reclaiming something, getting something back. These are similar themes to pretty much, I feel like, every Mili song I've analysed from Limbus Company. They were really similar. I'm not saying they're the same, but the similarities are quite stark. I can't think of too many other Mili songs that are this level of intense. I don't know why I was expecting. I saw the word compass, and you know what? I just thought it'd be something not uplifting, but I've almost felt like someone navigating something, like the idea of literally a compass to find something or to find themselves, which I suppose you could interpret from the phrase reclaiming your heart sort of thing. But now I see I Wanted Blood and I don't hear that at all. The very grungy electric guitars that are happening are really, really cool, for example. So if I play this sort of synth line on my left hand and then do like an impression of what the guitars are doing on my right, it sounds something like this. Something like that. I love the guitar actually. It's something I don't really hear, at least that level of grungy electric guitar, but also somewhat quite funky in a sense, in terms of the rhythm it's playing, the da da ba da da ba da da da, but filled with a lot of distortion at the same time. If this is for a character, I'm getting the impression his character is very cool on some level. Who knows? I could be completely wrong. It could be a child for all I know, but I get that impression at least.
Your evil's predefined. Your evil's predefined.
Oh, this is crazy. I'm gonna listen to this more. Let me try playing a bit of it. Something like that. That was really fun to play, by the way. But something along those lines. It sounds really nice as a kind of piano solo. Maybe I should turn this into a piano solo kind of piece, but I'm really liking this song. I'm also interested, actually, just me playing parts of it at least what I thought I heard on piano, how that feels different in feeling, maybe representing the character compared to the original, which is much grungier. I almost feel like that was way more emotional. Maybe more emotional than the character is, I don't know. I forgot we were in a really insane section of the piece. It's that build-up again. The structure of Mili pieces are so similar every time, in a way that's really good. It's predictable, but not in a bad sense. It's predictable in the sense of you know it's coming, you know there's going to be this explosive section with a really heavy synthesizer, the really heavy vocals with background vocals as well. There weren't too many background vocals in the first half of the piece compared to now, where it almost sounds like Cassie Way is screaming, in a sense. Beautifully screaming, but screaming, so to speak. Oh, that's so powerful. That felt really short. Maybe at 2 minutes 48, I suppose comparing it to certain other pieces, it does feel a little bit short, but it feels like it said everything it needed to say, in a sense. I imagine music sometimes to be a bit like a story, in a sense, trying to tell a story, and sometimes things kind of tell the story too much. Like, you know, when you're reading or reading a book or playing a game, for example, and you kind of get the point that the story's trying to tell you, and it's sort of like it keeps trying to tell you the same thing in multiple different ways. And it's sort of like, okay, I get the point, can you just move on to something else now? I don't get that with this. I get it. I get a very punchy, to the point, we're trying to tell a very impactful story about a particular character I'm imagining. I feel like this has something to do with a character. I could be totally wrong, but I just really strongly get that impression from the nature of the piece. And I get the impression that maybe it's a character who has quite an intense backstory on some level. So, I mean this in a really specific sense of like, maybe they're sort of like the more grungy type of character in a sense. Cold-hearted, I don't know. I'm kind of speculating based on how it came across. Who has far more complexities than what meets the eye. That's the sort of impression I'm getting, and the way I'm getting to that is from the intensity of the synthesizers, the very grungy guitar. This doesn't feel like somebody who's very one-dimensional, is what I mean. But I'm interested to hear your thoughts. And interested to hear anything else you want me to analyze. I do get round to them eventually, so definitely let me know in the comments. Until next time, thanks for watching, and take care, my friends.